Being a woman in business, I thought I had to do things like a man. Miss the message, miss the mark. The one thing you can do, districts, please hear me, is work on your brand story.
Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez, where we talk education, innovation, and the merging of the two. I have a very special guest this morning with me, the CEO and founder of Full Capacity Marketing, Celina Shands. Celina, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Rick. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, first of all, I said good afternoon, and really it's good morning because you're on the West Coast, right? So
Yes, I'm in San Diego today, and that's our home base, so yes.
Oh my goodness, I just saw the flooding y'all had on the news. Was it horrible?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Everybody's trying to clean up, but fortunately we were fine. Most of my staff were fine, so we're good. Thank you for your thoughts.
Yeah, no, Texas, we're no stranger, especially Houston, and no stranger to floods down here. So, prayers and thoughts to everybody around there in San Diego.
Thank you.
Well, I want to kick it off, and so our audience can learn a little bit about you, and particularly your career path. And I do want to touch on a little bit of your education. I'm always curious of, what you did in high school, what you did in college, and kind of how it shaped your leadership and your founder mentality.
Sure. Well, okay. So Full Capacity Marketing is actually my third company. I think I was born to be an entrepreneur. Growing up, I had lived in a very sort of tumultuous environment with an alcoholic family. And so who led me sort of down that path was my sister, Pam. She's listed as Shiro in my contacts, and she's just amazing. We didn't have a lot of money, so I knew, she just kept telling me, whatever you want to do, you can do it, right? So this is why I'm so keen on work-based learning, mentorship. It's a big part of our culture here at Full Capacity Marketing. So she sort of got me in. She says, you've got some athletic prowess. I'm going to get you into sports. So that led to me earning a basketball scholarship in college. And that's where I learned business and marketing and was able to at least have that foundation. But because being an athlete was so much in my blood, I wanted to do something in that field. So I ended up getting a little credential. It's a 1,500-hour credential for a holistic health practitioner and educator. And I parlayed that by challenging some tests in college to get a master's in sports medicine and accelerate that. So that was my first company. What I did there was help doctors integrate sports medicine as part of their practice. And then managed care hit, right? And that was kind of like, well, the profit margins weren't great. No, so at 28, that was my first company. I had to kind of downsize everything. And like many entrepreneurs, we have to reinvent, right? It's like, okay, what am I going to do now? So I moved from the Bay Area to San Diego and took a job because one of the skills I wanted to learn the most was working with the news media. And I didn't have a lot of experience in that. Lots of different specialties, as you know, within marketing and communications. So I took a job for the Health and Human Services Agency, and I happened to write a business plan for their foster care youth program. Someone that sat on that board was part of the workforce board who recruited me into that world for 4 years as their comms director. And so that became kind of full capacity marketing. I fell in love with this whole concept of workforce education and entrepreneurship as a workforce strategy because it totally changed my life and got me out of poverty. And I can see all the things that it can do, but like so many other organizations around the country, anybody in the K-16 kind of ecosystem can sometimes be the best kept secret, or they may not have the best reputation in the market and need rebranding. So that's what my whole company is based on, is working within those specific verticals to help them really tell their story, recruit students, and really engage stakeholders.
So, that's a whole lot in a short amount of time. And before we move on, I got to know, which college did you play basketball at?
I played University of North Carolina at Wilmington, and then I transferred to East Carolina University through a business scholarship. So I had to kind of choose one or the other by the time I got, to my major and all of that. But I just loved it. And fun fact, Michael Jordan is from my hometown. And he is 2 years younger than me. So in the summertime, I would go and play pickup games with guys to get better and get ready for the season. And inadvertently, I challenged him to a game of one-on-one without knowing who he was, because we went to different high schools. We were in different districts. And then he was playing. He goes, "Oh yeah, I know who you are. You play on the women's team out here. You can have the ball first." It was just me and him in the gym. We were waiting for people.
Now hold on. So he said yes.
So he said, yeah, let's play. You can have the ball first. And I'm all like, no, we're going to shoot for it, And we played one-on-one, and I managed to score 1 point. And I said, "Would you give me that point?" And he says, I don't give anybody anything. That, true to his form, right? And I know we're getting off topic here, but it's just a fun little side story. But he was getting ready to go to Carolina at the time. And I kind of mentioned that too, because it's one of the things I've learned in having all these companies is you don't give up, right? You could be down by 20 points in a game. Are you going to give up? Or are you going to have the leadership mentality to say, no, we're going to make this happen? And so I think all those things have kind of shaped not only who I am as a person and a leader, but my company values as well.
Wow. I mean, so you've neglected to mention that story the first time we chatted, because I would have been all over that. That's awesome. That's funny. Awesome. That's a lot better than a lot of kids I've seen over the years at camps. And they play Michael Jordan. They don't even get the ball 2 or 3 dribbles before he takes it from them. So
it's unbelievable.
You're in rarefied air. I'll say that. So tell us your why. Why full capacity marketing? Why do you want to help anybody, but specifically for our purposes, the K through 16 markets?
Yeah, I find that market needs a lot of help. First of all, it's an important mission, what education and workforce. I don't like when people feel like they don't have hope in the world in terms of, gosh, where do I go in my education path? What skill set should I lean into? What is my career path? So that's why I like to support missions, those organizations that have that mission. My approach in that, and maybe it comes from basketball or just kind of I like to teach, but we have a learning hub. And so when clients work with us, we teach them the right way to approach marketing. Now, of course, there's no right or wrong way, but we believe that you've got to have data-driven approach and really to building a brand. And so when we work with our clients, we teach them as we go along our customer-centric model so that they can course correct when our contract concludes without us, right? They're educated about what to do properly. And then the other thing that we launched, I'm really excited about, last fall we launched through our e-learning hub a course called the Brand Amplifier for Workforce and Education Professionals. And it takes them through 10 modules with templates and case studies on how to use data properly to manage your brand and create a story. A lot of times I find people don't even have a story in the market in this K-16 space, or they talk about things like funding streams and regulations versus value propositions and how are they uniquely different to solve these challenges within their community. And that's what we help them do. We help them find that voice and that story, which is really important. I was reading another fun fact, Rick. I was reading the other day how many marketing messages we see daily, depending on the market you're in. It's anywhere between 6,000 to 10,000 messages daily when you think of internet, pop-up ads, everything, radio, TV, all of that. So we always have a saying of here, you miss the message, you miss the mark. So let's say it's like, oh, I'm going to start with social media. What's the content on that social media? What are you trying? And is what you're saying on social media aligned with what you're saying at another important touch point, your website? So those are the kind of like strategic things we help folks kind of grapple with so that they can get out there and have a great brand in the community to attract students and do the things they need to do in terms of their mission.
You mentioned the struggles that K-16 have, and particularly K-12. We struggle with getting our message out there because we're always on the defensive, right? We're either explaining, we're reactionary. We've never really had to consider, who our students are because they're zoned to us and you get who you get, and that's really not changed much. And then COVID hit and there's online learning and kids are moving and they're not coming back to school and there's all these different components to it. And there has never been a more competitive time, I believe, in education than it is right now for your local districts and your private schools, your charter schools. Everybody is competing for students and families. So it is a vast need in the K-12 market space that they understand that and they start to align who we are, what we say, mission and vision, and really deliver that message effectively. We just don't do that very well. So your service is a very much needed service in our K-12 world. It just really is.
Yeah, a lot of factors converging on K-12 districts right now, and they wear so many hats. So it's important to not guess what your message is, number one. Number two, how is your current message resonating with community, with stakeholders, with parents? And how do you need to shift that message in terms of your brand story? And then how do you need to get it out there in the world with all the different stakeholders? And it's not a one size fits all. Like, one of the mistakes I see districts making is, we need a podcast, or we need a brochure, or we need this or that. Well, that might be the new bright, shiny object, but is it going to work within your market? And let's back up and do an assessment using data. We do this thing called a brand sentiment analysis that provides sentiment scores to see what people are saying K-12 online in blogs and Facebook groups, good, bad, and it gives you a score on that. And then if you're saying over here in, like, say, your about section of your website that you value this, this, and this, and it's not exemplified through these mediums that you're actually doing that and living your brand, that is an issue. And it's going to cause mistrust, confusion, and a lot of other things that are going to take a lot of time to fix.
You bring up a good point about website alignment, and does that message equate to what you're saying on social media? And often it doesn't, just because districts struggle with keeping their websites up, and they're usually behind and not accurate, and it causes a lot of pain points for parents. Me being a parent, and totally understand that, and totally get that. I do want to ask you about being a founder and a CEO, right? So what are your big takeaways, some mistakes, oh man, if I had it to go back and do over again, I would do A, B, or C as you've progressed?
Well, gosh, so many things. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have 3 companies, this one now for 22 years. And if I had to do it all over again, a couple of things. One, being a woman in business, I thought I had to do things like a man. And so, different culture, different time and everything. And so I work a lot with women entrepreneurs because I think there's so many gifts we have, and we can sort of have that speak the power in truth and, at meetings and bringing up things and not be afraid of your voice. So a lot of what I do is help women find their voice in a corporate setting or within their own company. And in finding that voice, you don't have to do things perfectly, and you don't have to do everything. And you may, when you first start out as an entrepreneur, you sort of have to do that to get to where you need to be. But as you grow the company, just surrounding yourself with amazing people that help fill in your areas, your weaknesses, so you can have a well-rounded team. To me, that's just so important in terms of being a leader. And then the other thing I found, this is very interesting, it may be counterintuitive to entrepreneurs, but if you don't get an opportunity, like say you go out you're applying for an RFP and you didn't win that bid, there's a reason why you didn't win the bid. So you don't give up, you go back. I always ask for feedback from the potential customer and say, I'm glad you found your match. I would love to get some feedback because we always are continuously improving. How could we help better tell our story? We always do that too. We're a marketing and communications company, right? And then when I look back on certain projects and things, it's like, that's why we didn't get it. That was really not a match for our company. And what I'm finding now, because we've been around for so long, we've got 97% of our business comes from repeat customers or referrals. So we're really picky about the other 3% if we're going to apply for an RFP on, what's the leadership like? Because I want to work with leaders in districts and other areas who are willing to take a chance, who are willing to say, you know what, we're not doing things so well. To be able to say that is a sign of a true leader. And how can we improve? When I come to my staff meetings, I'll say, okay, here's our new project, blah, blah, give them a whole briefing, say, here's what I think, now rip it up. Redline everything I just said and tell me why that is the best strategy or what other strategy. So again, it's finding those collective voices that's going to give you the ultimate best plan, I think, for your district.
Is it frustrating, or could it be frustrating when you have a client and they only implement, 2/3, or, I take it as like a diet or a workout, right? Yeah, I need to cut the carbs, but I'm not going to cut biscuits and gravy in the morning, right? It's just, I got to imagine that happens. Like, all right, well, we like this part, but this part, does that happen? And how do you kind of mitigate or respond?
Absolutely, it happens. Hey, if they're doing 2/3, I'm happy. It's like, okay, we're going to start somewhere because it is a long-term game and it's a cultural shift. It's just as much a change management process than anything else, because what districts have to realize is that every touch point counts. The touch points with the students, whether they're online or face-to-face, that type of thing. So what I love about this work is that it uncovers operational things that districts need to do a little bit better in terms of communication. So that's not going to happen overnight. But if we can get them in with the foundations, and let's say one of their goals, and we agreed with them, was public relations, getting earned media, getting their story out in front of their local papers and things like that. And let's say we had outstanding results with that. So sometimes we'll just take one strategy and say, let's carry that through really, really well. And then do that and then move to the next one. So, it's just, we understand, the districts they're filled with just things they have to do. But what small shifts can they begin to make to lay the foundation to build that brand? And that's what good leadership will think about.
Yeah, small bite-sized increments of growth, right? And that's what we preach to our teachers and our kids, just like, you don't have to be perfect, let's just make growth.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. So I got to ask you a CEO question, and it pertains to education. In the last 5 years, when you've hired teammates, marketing professionals to join your company, what are some of the biggest gaps that have been present that you were like, you know what, if I had a room full of, college deans and a room full of superintendents, I would say, work on this.
Yes. Well, sometimes I feel like I really want to change up things that I take myself as an example. I didn't have a home life. So there was things in school that would have been really helpful for me, like financial literacy. And even though I didn't have money at the time, when I got it, what am I going to do with it? So just basic life skills are really important. When I hire at Full Capacity Marketing, I always look at the culture first. Is this person going to fit in with the culture? And even like right now, I'm mentoring our brand new director of operations. She's been in for a year. She's only 23 years old. She graduated college a year early at UC Santa Cruz. In a year early, and we've got her on a project now because it's a project that's trying to get kids to understand, and parents, AG requirements and how to get into dual enrollment. She said, wow, that really resonates with me because I see people who did that and they were able to take upper level courses and jump right in where I couldn't, right? So, wow, what a great story. So those are the kind of people I look at, like how did workforce and education change their lives? And then they probably will have the same amount of passion. Hard skills are a different thing. And marketing and communication landscape has changed so much, especially AI coming in now. You've got search engine optimization in websites. That's a specialty. You've got paid advertising, digital ads, that's a specialist right there. Managing social media accounts. There's so much to it. So I've had luck with the talent just in terms of gaps, but it does take a while to find the right people. And I think your long-term success, we've been at this for 22 years and our people stick because, they have that passion and fire for workforce and education. And if you look at our team, like we've got one gentleman who earned his GED. He had dual citizenship in Mexico. He earned his GED going over the border in Tijuana, and then different community college classes and things like that. So everybody on our team has that kind of story. And so that makes it real interesting for us because we want others to follow their dream, their passion.
So when you're interviewing someone, what's a key indicator that not a good fit, not a culture match?
It may be, I put them through different tests and I try them out. So I'll pay them for these tests, but I'll say, okay, they want to be part of our PR division or paid ads or whatever. So I'll ask them technical questions. I'll say, okay, like here's an example. We're working right now with the Chef Ann Foundation in conjunction with California Community Colleges Foundation on the first ever federally funded apprenticeship program.
Oh, nice.
So the scratch food cooking in the schools, right, in the districts all over California. And so one of the questions I had for the digital buyers is, okay, we've got all these different districts that are getting onboarded into this process. How do you find the underserved and underrepresented populations that would be a fit for this program? What is the strategy? So I grill them on strategy because tactically, they've learned the things like how to place the ads, how to set up the platform, but I look at how they would monitor and course correct. If they're in the PR division, I'll say, okay, here's your parameters. I want you to write a press release in 20 minutes on this topic. Here are the things. Make up facts. Do whatever you need to do. So I put them right there on the spot on the test. And the ones that say, oh, this is cool. This is really fun. I know they're going to, okay, they're up for a challenge. The other ones that are like, I don't know. Okay, well, we probably need to rethink that.
You need some help marketing yourself, right? Is that was telling like maybe it is? No, yeah. I like the kind of the action role play, the simulation, if you will. I think that's highly valuable. And I've been a big proponent of schools moving towards that more so now than ever, because that's the reality of what the job market is now. Like you've got to be able to come in and plug in quickly, and you can always learn some skills, but some of the other intangible components are really difficult for some people to plug into. So, kudos to you.
Real world application. Again, that's why I love work-based learning. Another question I may ask them is, I may give them a case study and give them a strategy that I don't think is so great and say, well, we were thinking of this. What do you think of? Because I want to see how they push back on a suboptimal strategy. And also, can they have a voice at the table? Now, I've taken many people on to groom them to have a voice at the table. We do an internship program here. Sometimes we'll work with a district and they want interns in our project. So we bring them into the process to teach them along the way, which is really fun. Big part of our company is that. It's just grooming the next gen.
I love it. We need more companies and firms like that are willing to just, hey, give us your students and let's get their hands dirty and learn. No, I love that. What do you think K-12 gets wrong? Like, what's the one big thing? Like you say, just do this first. Take this first step.
I think they go after the tactical elements of communication. We need social media. They pick a medium, but are not solid on their messaging. That's the number one thing. And when you're thinking about your brand story, and you need a brand story, you want to think about it from an emotional standpoint, not the functionality necessary of what you do, but the lives that you change. So what is some of that emotional component that you do? And are there things that you do different and better than, say, other districts that you're really proud of? Those need to be integrated into who you are. So that elevator pitch is really strong. And your first, I'll think a lot of things, another mistake I see is they try to tell too much all at once. right? So you leave breadcrumbs, people, it takes like 5 to 12 touch points as an example if I'm working with a community college or an adult school to get a student to enroll. So they've got to see that message 5 to 12 times in different ways. So, your district is no different. How are people seeing what's the story? What's going to resonate with the community? And a lot of times they go into that and they'll just lock themselves in a room and say, okay, we'll come up with mission, vision, and values. That's not your brand story. Your brand story is why, getting to the why of what you do and really the ultimate goal. Looking at that vision, which is supposed to be something you cannot achieve, probably never will achieve. Like our vision is that the whole K-16 system, the spectrum, and workforce organizations are fully funded to do their missions and move markers in their community. Well, that's not going to happen, but we strive for it every day, right?
Sure.
So how do you do that? And can you exemplify, like right now we're working with an organization and we came to the conclusion that their value proposition was achieving equity. It was a workforce organization. So then we had to relook at the stories we're telling on their website. How does everything they tell lead back to that achieving equity, right? Because otherwise you're not demonstrating what you say you're going to do.
Yes. Yeah. You've got to show that you're living it as you're doing it, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I need your opinion. I really want your perspective on this. So I'm a huge career and tech fan. I mean, I've built some innovative programming. Love it. Love internships, everything about them. One of the things I suggest to some of our superintendent colleagues is that we really need to think about how we market the programs, right? Who markets them, and how we use language around career and tech. Because when I was in school and my generation, and it was almost a dirty word, like
it was
those kids, right? It's vocational tech, those kids, as if they don't have a future, so they might as well go do A, B, or C. Whereas now, as everybody's well aware, oh my goodness, those jobs are very high wage, highly demand. There's a ton of opportunity, but we've yet to kind of turn the corner on how we say things and how we market that. And even when we add programs, I'm always kind of baffled at some of the programs we add, because HVAC is probably a great opportunity, but that's not the easiest program in the world to market to 14, 15, 16 years. Like, you got to think about how you're doing that, because the reasons that we would select it are not near the reasons that they would choose to go into it. And if you think that, oh, well, that's a good wage and you'll start the career, like a lot of students care less about that in that moment. And so I always say, be very careful about which programs you're adding. Just because it's a good idea for us, that doesn't translate all the time.
Exactly. So well said. So well said.
Do you think it's in the benefit of K-12 to totally revamp how they frame and message career and technical education programming?
Absolutely. So I'll just give an example. In California here, there was a whole campaign that was run to reposition career technical education. And we took out the word technical because we found that had a negative connotation. So career education really worked in several of the markets here. It was interesting. However, the central part of California, so like you've got Fresno, which is the 5th largest city in California, but a lot of rural, a lot of disadvantaged areas. What we found there was they wanted a good paying job as a benefit. However, they wanted it close to home. Now that's a really big nuance. So when we did the campaign, we wanted to demonstrate all of these different types of careers in action. So video was very important in that project. Video from the employer side, talking about how career education benefited their bottom line, and videos from the student side. The campaign theme became Find It, Be It. And it was, career education close to home, right? So
I like that. I love that, actually.
So you can go to finditbeit.org and you'll see the website. And that's the other thing, is segmenting the message. There is a segment for employers, a section on the website for employers, and a section for students where they can explore and find things. And then the paid ads drove them to the website. When the rest of the state, who ran other campaigns, they were down that one year we ran it by about 2.3%. We were up in career ed enrollments in our area, the area we worked in, by 2.5%. So it really shows you the power of messaging. That's why I say you miss the message, you miss the mark. So you want to leave messages out there that are intriguing and mediums that really work for your target audience. So you may have a very segmented strategy on TikTok or Instagram, and then you may be in a Facebook parent group, building your subject matter expertise and explaining things very simple. And that one campaign, we took that Find It Be It campaign and just took it into the K-12 school district in Kern County. And they wanted to use that same kind of theme. Well, guess what? COVID hit. And they used to have this big virtual, not a virtual, but a big job fair, career fair for students to come and learn. We did that all virtually, and we were able to reach so many more parents and students in rural areas that could not drive all the way out to an on-site fair. So you start learning these things and putting together, learning your market segments, what are their personas, what do they care about, and then messaging specifically to them. It works, it really does. You got to miss the message, miss the mark. If I didn't have the right message in that campaign and went and spent all this money on advertising, social media, it's money down the drain. That's why you've got to upfront. The one thing you can do, districts, please hear me, is work on your brand story.
No, I mean, and you wouldn't be surprised because you very well know, but the amount of career and tech buildings, retrofits, new programming I've been able to see around the country that sit empty, right? That superintendent's like, I don't know. We built this, $35 million facility, and enrollment in these programs has not gone up. It's like, well, which programs did you add? Why did you add those?
Yes.
It's crazy.
It really is. My nephew, I always point to him in North Carolina. He was the creative type, but he also would like he started a website when he was 7 years old. He built a website for families that lost their dogs, and he tried to match them up. I got him on the news. It was just really fun, but he wasn't like a 4-year university type. So he went to community college and got stackable credentials, and now has started his own company. He's in that same HVAC, advanced manufacturing, where he builds these parts. He just bought a building. I asked him, I said, how much did you bill last month? He said, 30,000. I said, oh, just 30,000. Oh, you're not doing so. It was just like, he's just, and that's his passion, right? So I really, this whole thing about a 4-year university, obviously that was my path and beyond because of my goals. But not everybody wants to do that or is cut out to do that. And if we leave all these kids behind, then what is going to be the economic impact in our country? It's going to be very sad, right?
Yes, 100%. Or if we give them, $150,000 worth of debt and try to climb out of that hole, after they get out, right, where they don't necessarily need that to follow their dreams.
No, not at all. If I could share one more story with you, Rick, which I love this story. One of our clients we've represented since 2017 is the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, and they represent like 79,000 adult educators across the nation. Well, we did this whole storytelling campaign for them, and one of the stories was about a woman who lived in a storage unit. She was homeless, and she went in, she was trying to get her GED, but she couldn't finish because she didn't have a laptop. So the instructor partnered with a private sector company, got her a laptop, got her GED. She went back and got some stackable credentials and to learn office management, things like. She's now making $60,000 a year,
Golly.
So those stories is what I'm talking about from an emotional standpoint. What do you do as a district to change lives? answer that question and you're well on your way to building your brand story, that is going to resonate and attract people to what you're doing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that's what we do it for. That's what every educator would say that they do it for, is for the kids, and for the kids to be able to pursue what their dreams are. Well, I kept you way too long, but can we do a little rapid fire to close us out here?
Sure.
Okay. What was your favorite basketball stadium to play in college?
I'd have to say Chapel Hill. I mean, the Dean Dome, come on, way back then. Yeah.
Okay. So I got to change one now that you gave me the Michael Jordan story. When did you realize, like, did it hit you that, oh my gosh, that's the best player that's ever lived, and I was, telling him that, hey, don't spot me any points. Like, when did it really hit you and dawn on you?
When I saw him play as a freshman at Carolina, because then I started watching his career and I thought, oh my gosh, and so it went up from there, like just so crazy.
Who is most impressed by that story? Like, out of your friends and family, who do you tell that story to that was most impressed?
I think my sister, but maybe it's because she's my hero and she's my hero, and it's like, I live for her. She lives for me and I live for her. So it's like, stories to me are like to be shared with your friends and family. Like, this is really cool that this happened. That's
huge. Yeah, I'd be telling that story every single day, nonstop. Just like stopping at Starbucks, like, hey, by the way, I know him.
It's so funny. My partner, he is 6'7", and so when we're out there talking and everything, people always think he's the basketball player, and he's like pointing at me, going, "She can kick my butt on the basketball court."
I love it. All right, last question. Put you on the spot. Would it be possible for full capacity to offer an internship virtually, maybe to some student in Texas down the road? Is that something that y'all do or have?
Absolutely. I'd love to partner with the schools in Texas and do an internship. In fact, we did a virtual internship on that Find It, Be It campaign that we talked about. So we took on 9 virtual interns, and I actually will give you the link to their stories and everything that you can put and reference there. It's just so awesome. Yes, we will absolutely take on an intern.
I love it. I'm asking you that because in a couple of days I'll see 100-something superintendents at our huge conference here in Texas. So I'm always saying, hey guys, if your students need internships, talk to me. I've got some folks that would love to do it and are great people and have great organizations, can be great learning. So I appreciate it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, what would be cool is if, that student, we can train them to do maybe some of the market research or something that would help that district better get to their brand story. So that would be a really cool kind of internship. And in the process, we could mentor them on what's your brand, and getting. So yeah, we'll have fun with that, Rick. I love it.
I'll hold you to that.
Okay.
But Celina, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story here on the Path Forward. And I'm quite certain we will be in touch about a variety of things. So thank you for being here.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rick.
Produced by Podcast Architects.